Today I'm going to try something a little bit different, but I want to talk about the report that Oklahoma wants to pull out a Big 12 play. I want to talk about Spencer Rattler, the Heisman odds, Jeremiah Scooby Williams announcing his top four, and a bit of Ohio State. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You got to help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on step milk. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, let's start with the news of the day, which I believe starts with the Big Ten, because Big Ten parents are pissed. Players are pissed that Kevin Warren is choosing to double down on not playing fall football. His open letter that he published Wednesday. My goodness, today is Thursday. Wednesday at 5 o'clock really set off a number of alarm bells for a number of people. Bobby Carpenter actually went through and graded it, asking really good questions that Kevin Warren did not provide answers for. The thing that I found the most egregious in that letter was that he said that financial considerations did not go into his decision, for which you're lying to us, because we know how much money the Big Ten brings in. And if it was strictly about money, we would understand that. But you're also looking at bringing in close to $800 million that you just punted on? Yeah. It matters, right, as much as anything else. And while I continue to say Kevin Warren works at the pleasure of the university presidents, you cannot overlook his child is playing at Mississippi State this year in the SEC, to which we would also say his kid is an adult getting to make those decisions, for which you would like to see what would happen if Kevin Warren was the commissioner of the SEC. We can't actually say, but I do think it would be within his purview to pull his kid out of football if that was something that he wanted to do. It's just not a good look, which brings me back to another not a good look. The AP is asking all of its voters to rank the top 25 teams across Division I college football. That means FBS, which is interesting, right? Because we're going to get preseason rankings. We're also going to get preseason All-Americans the day after. And the way that these rankings come out is on Monday. So knowing that they're coming out on Monday, we all expect to see Clemson and Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, among others, ranked up in the top 10, right? I mean, Clemson's still playing football, but as it pertains to Big Ten and Pac-12, Oregon's going to get ranked. USC's probably going to get ranked. Probably going to talk a little bit about, Minnesota, among others, Iowa, Wisconsin. And this is going to really be a sticky point if we're able to get through a college football season in which, Ohio State was a number 2, number 3 ranked program at the start of the season that didn't play football. Especially when you know the preseason All-American is probably going to include at least 2 to 3 Ohio State players, starting with perhaps Justin Fields, Shaun Wade, and I would even go so far as to say Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson got a shot. Garrett Wilson as the punt returner. We'll see how that goes. But Ohio State fans are probably going to be livid about this, and I understand. So with the next topic I want to talk about was the 1918 Spanish flu versus the 2020 COVID. And how did that thing actually go? Well, Michigan got in 5 games. They went 5-0. Pitt got in 5 games. They went 4-1. Somehow they were both named co-champions, just to show you how backward college football remains to be. Also had Chicago decide to cancel football. But my favorite here, the one that I actually want to get everybody to understand, Columbus ain't used to not having football. The university there, Ohio State University, decided they were going to close campus because public health officials told them to close campus in 1918 on a Friday. The very next day, they played football against Denison with fans in the stands. Wow, right? More than that, I think that the way that we have progressed in our thinking could lead us to think, hey, we know a little bit more about science and a little bit more about medicine and a little bit more about epidemiology and how diseases spread than we did in 1918. Also added that there was a world war during that time, so it kind of complicates the matter just a little bit more. We also are in great communication. We've also made technological advances for which you have a bunch of people that would say it's safe to play football. I don't think that it's safe to play football. I don't think that they should be playing football, but if they're playing football, I'm going to watch it, I'm going to consume it, and I am going to talk about it just as I'm talking about how this interacts with the rest of us, right? Now, the other part about this that I found interesting was who's going to be the national champion if we only get through like 5 games, right? Probably looking at an Alabama or Georgia. You got to hope that Alabama-Georgia game that is scheduled to be played on October 17th is going to be such a big deal, because if they get to that game, I think you can honestly say that Georgia and Alabama were all predicted to be the SEC championship game. Maybe Florida has something to say about that. Maybe LSU can run it back. Maybe Texas A&M can surprise us all. That said, we're going to have an opportunity to do this. It also brings me back to this idea of Arkansas and its football schedule and how that's just going to suck for them. All right. I wanted to get into the Heisman odds just a little bit because BetOnline redid them without Big Ten or Pac-12 players, and they're fascinating to look at because Trevor Lawrence leads all at 2-1, right? Spencer Rattler got the second best Heisman odds at 9-1 among all college football players still playing football. The only running back that received odds that were better than 20-1, Chuba Hubbard at 20-1, right? But also in here, you got De'Aaron King, Miles Brennan, and Sam Ehlinger at 14-1. I'm not in on the Miles Brennan experiment for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is your name is not Joe Burrow, and even Joe Burrow needed a year with the offense just to get to where he got to go. You also have a bunch of brand new parts. It means that LSU could be great next year. They're not going to be great this year. Then there's De'Aaron King. All right, put aside 4-game red shirt, right? For which he didn't play very well. You still have a brand new offense that you're getting to know. You got Rhett Lashley, who is famous for penalizing his quarterbacks for messing up routes on air, which I fully support. And also, you got a bunch of ACC players that are coming for your lid, notably at Florida State, among others, right? We know that Notre Dame is in this conference as well. It's not going to be an easy walk for De'Aaron King. And yes, that 2018 season was great. 3,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher at Houston. He's good. I don't know that he's good enough to win a Heisman Trophy. Sam Ehlinger probably has the best shot of this group of three because we know who Sam Ehlinger is, and I expect his offense to be flat out awesome in 2020. This is actually the year for which if Texas is going to get it right, they're going to get it right in a big way, okay? Also in here is Mac Jones and Jamie Newman. And I'm really fascinated by this matchup because I think that they could face each other in October, but also because I'm talking myself into the Mac Jones experiment. All right, so start with Jamie Newman. Jamie Newman's last 4 games, 12 of 27 for 175 with 3 TDs and a pick versus Michigan State in a loss. 6 of 13 for 71 yards with 0 TDs, a pick versus Syracuse in a loss. 14 of 25 for 284 yards with a TD, no picks against Duke. All right. And then my favorite, 6 of 14 for 41 yards with 0 TDs and 2 picks against the best team he faced all year in Clemson. I call him store brand Cam Newton because he's got all the tools of store brand Cam Newton, but he's not Cam Newton. And I hesitate to think what he might be able to do at Georgia, and that leads me to believe that Georgia's probably going to be a running team anyway because they're more talented at running back than they are at quarterback. That's even if JT Daniels is ready to go, for which he hasn't been cleared of his ACL to injury just yet. And then you get to Mac Jones, and you look at his last 3 games, okay? Western Carolina, all right, cool. 10 of 12, 275, 3 TDs, 0 picks. You ought to beat up on Western Carolina. Then you get number 15, Auburn. 26, 39, 335, 4 TDs, 2 picks. Both picks are pick sixes. He doesn't throw pick sixes. We're talking about a different ball game. One of those is actually not his fault, is a bobble, and then Auburn defense did what an Auburn defense is supposed to do. And then you get 16 of 25 for 327 yards, 3 touchdown passes, 0 picks against number 14 Michigan. I could totally see Steve Sarkisian wanting to run with Mac Jones, one, because he's good enough with Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle at his disposal, but also to give Bryce Young this mulligan of a year that seems to be a mulligan of a year for everybody. And why rush the kid along if you don't have to? Especially if Mac Jones can go out there and lead the charge, and then you might be able to bring Bryce Young in an SEC championship game or in a national championship game, and maybe he becomes the second coming of Tua Tagovailoa, all right? From there, I want to talk a little bit about Jeremiah Scooby Williams, who announced his top 4 today. Now, the top 4 are Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn. My bad. So in there, you can see SEC, Oklahoma. I did find it curious that on July 4th, as we get Latrell McCutcheon announcing that he is going to commit to the University of Oklahoma, and then we get Caleb Williams announcing that he is going to commit to the University of Oklahoma, and we got both of those guys named as high school All-Americans according to USA Today, that Jamar Cain tweeted a photo of a Scooby. Scooby Williams also projects at outside linebacker, which is Jamar Cain's position, and Jamar Cain has got Clayton Smith into the boat, and he's going to be outstanding, and Scooby could be just as good. So we'll wait and see how that goes. Now, the last point I wanted to get to was this talk about Oklahoma pulling out of the Big 12 or wanting to pull out of the Big 12 regular season, conference-only season. I have heard rumblings that Lincoln Riley has not been excited about playing football. For that, I don't blame him. I'm not excited about playing football. I also don't think that it's safe to play football. And Lincoln Riley is also one of the smartest people that is in football right now. Actually, I'm going to talk to the author of a biography on Lincoln Riley here in just a few minutes, named Brandon Sneed, whose book comes out August 25th. We're going to go in at length about Lincoln Riley's background, but Riley has rarely made a mistake as it pertains to what he should be doing as a college football coach. And I understand being between a rock and a hard place. If your president wants to play, if your athletic director wants to play, you got to go play. Those are your bosses, or you got to back out of the job. And I don't think he's going to back out of the job. And his players want to play. They're also doing this thing where they're stressing to us that the players aren't being made to play. What I find interesting from Mark Blatchon, who wrote about this in Sports Illustrated, is that Texas apparently is coming hell or high water, going to play football. I think we're going to start playing football in September. I think that we're going to get through 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's going to get cold, and then we'll see how this goes. But as for this report, I don't put a whole hell of a lot of stock into it because Joe Constiglione is doing everything in his power to try to play football. And if it gets to the point to where it's hysteria and we see positive test after positive test after positive test, it won't be Oklahoma that has to go first. It'll be somebody else. Until then, you can only hope that perhaps they're able to create some sort of bubble, but that would mean that you got to hope for the worst, which would mean a bunch of kids testing positive at a fraternity or sorority, and I don't want it to come to that. I would really like to know that the University of Oklahoma in Norman is a model for the country to follow. But I'm too cynical and realistic to know what that's going to do because I'm from here. Don't nobody care. I'm from here. All right, let me know what you think about this format where I cover a bunch of topics in a very short amount of time. If you like it, cool. If you don't, say so. I know I have a tendency to scooter trail anyway, so something I wanted to try with this one segment. Leave me a comment below if that's what you do. Also, subscribe to the RJ Young Show podcast over on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever the hell it is you get your podcast. Those are the live shows if you want to get the live shows without the commercials within them. If you weren't there for the whole thing, same thing goes with some of these really cool interviews that I'm going to be able to do here in the coming weeks. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.